You are listening to the CMR audio project. The CMR is the Institute for Coastal and Marine Research at the Nelson Mandela University in Port Elizabeth, South Africa. I'm David, or Dave if you prefer. I have a PhD in philosophy, and I'm working on a post-doctoral project at the CMR. The CMR audio project is a component of that broader post-doctoral project. You might wonder what a Doctor of Philosophy is doing at the Institute for Coastal and Marine Research, seeing as it is connected to the ocean sciences. Well, if you did wonder at that seemingly strange fit, then part of my job may already be done. Philosophy and wondering go hand in hand. I hope this audio project provokes some further wondering by you, offering conceptual drops to your oceans of ideas. I'm aiming to keep things relatively short and sweet. Each episode of the project will be 30 minutes or shorter. The format is an interview with someone whose work, role, ideas, project, or portfolio resonates with the broad scope of the CMR. The structure of the interviews will be three-pronged: who, what, and why. Who is the interviewee, what are they up to, and why are they up to it? The views and opinions expressed in the CMR audio project are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of any branch of the Nelson Mandela University. If you have any questions or comments about anything you hear in one of the CMR audio project episodes, I would love to hear from you. The email address to use is cmraudioproject@gmail.com. Let's see what you send, and I'll work on getting your comment or question addressed at some point in the project, either by me or a relevant guest. The guest for this episode is Dr. Bernadette Snow, the director of the CMR. What a great way to begin. What follows are Dr. Snow's answers to the questions: who are you, Bernie? What is the CMR? And what are some of the projects unfolding there? And why does the CMR do what it does? Okay, Dr. Snow, I'm mostly going to call you Bernie, if you're okay with that. I think most people who know you call you Bernie. So, Dr. Snow, Bernie, I must say that I've been very excited to initiate this CMR audio project. You're the director of the CMR, and you will be talking about the Institute soon. But before we get there, could I ask you to tell me a little bit about yourself? Who are you? What do you do? And what drives you?
Hi, Dave. Yes, Bernie's perfectly fine. So I'm Bernadette Snow, or Bernie, as you say, most call me. And currently I am the director for CMR, but I'm also an academic in the Development Studies Department at Nelson Mandela University. So you asked the question, what drives me? And I feel that this is sometimes a difficult question to answer because I have multiple drivers depending on what I'm doing. So I swing between enjoying the challenge. I love the chase and the challenge. I also enjoy mentoring and supporting postgraduate researchers. I'm very concerned about the plight of people and planet. And sometimes it's my family that drives me to do things or to be a change agent in some way or other.
And you have a dog?
Well, I have a few dogs. I have 2 dogs, 2 cats, and 2 rabbits.
Wow, it sounds like there's definitely one dog in the mix. So thanks for his or her participation, and I like the ambience that provides. Let's hope that listeners do too.
It's not my dogs that are making the noise. You're hearing some down the street that are howling at something.
Okay, well, a nice ambience either way. So let's talk a little bit about the CMR now. What is it? How did it come into being? And what are some of the projects under the broad umbrella of the CMR?
So the CMR, or short for Institute for Coastal and Marine Research, is a university-wide research and engagement entity under the leadership of the DVC Research, Internationalization and Innovation. And it has been a university-wide research and engagement entity since 2016. And the main reason why it was promulgated as a university-wide entity was to work across disciplines in the ocean sciences, and particularly to foster transdisciplinarity among researchers within the university and the broader research community in coastal and marine research. However, before it became a university-wide entity, it was an entity under the Faculty of Science, which undertook mainly natural and physical science research and had been doing so since the 1980s. We have quite a wide variety of projects. Many of our members within the entity have their own projects, and they are small project teams. As long as they are working towards cross-disciplinarity, transdisciplinarity, and addressing some of the important research questions that are required for marine and coastal sciences and environments. But we do have some larger transdisciplinary research projects, and I'll speak a little bit about those. But to list them, we have the One Ocean Hub project, which we are a member of, together with other South African universities and quite a few other countries. About 25 countries are involved in the One Ocean Hub. And this is to look at ocean governance, particularly from a perspective of equity, access, gender inequality, the marine sciences. The other is looking at, we call it Cyclico for short, and that one is looking at climate resilience and what climate services could be developed, co-developed with managers in coastal cities to build the resilience towards climate change. We also have two community of practice projects. These are NRF funded. They bring together different South African chairs in research chairs, looking at Algoa Bay as a project towards a marine spatial plan, one of the first ones for South Africa. And the other, there's a newly started one, is a community of practice looking at the ocean accounts framework, and particularly novel accounts that aren't yet included in an accounting system. Then we have other projects looking at integrated ocean management. It's a Belmont Forum funded project that is about to start next month. 5th of June is our launch date. And this is looking at integrated ocean management using stakeholders, biodiversity data, cumulative impact assessments, and nature's contribution to people. We're also currently developing the contract, but we have been asked to undertake development of a marine spatial planning strategy for the Western Indian Ocean. As I say, there are quite a few others, but those are the key main ones that we are working on at the moment.
A lot happening already there. Could I ask you to talk briefly about the difference between interdisciplinarity and transdisciplinarity? You mentioned transdisciplinarity and cross-discipline work. Why is that important, and what is the difference between interdisciplinarity and transdisciplinarity? So
in many cases, and there are some disputes about how to define it, but interdisciplinarity, you get inter, intra, or cross. So interdisciplinarity is working between different disciplines. So it means you could have a project and you could have 3 different disciplines working on the project, but they will still keep towards their methodological approach, their paradigm and thought. They would apply their research designs, and then they would try and address a question in a certain way. Transdisciplinarity, on the other hand, brings across depth. It makes you question the methodological approaches, how you design the work that you undertake, also how you think about your question. It's usually a big question that needs to be tackled from different angles and perspectives. It brings in complexity, and it includes members of society, not only academia, people in a disciplinary silo. So you would be working with government, you would be working with NGOs, and you would be working with communities directly to solve issues together. And that is a very important key feature to transdisciplinarity, in my view.
What other organizations, and you don't have to be specific, are involved there? And is it possible for other organizations to get on board? Are you looking for partnerships? Is this something that people can contact you about, or are you good for now?
People can get involved. There are different project partners on some of these projects already. So like the Cyclico, which is the climate resilient, our project partner is the Nelson Mandela Bay Municipality. And then the integrated ocean management brings in organizations such as South African National Parks, South African Environmental Observation Networks, South African Institute for Aquatic Biodiversity, as also WESA. So that brings in different partners there. The Algoa Bay project We have a large stakeholder database and engagement with stakeholders across the Bay. And these include local organizations and people directly, as well as national organizations that happen to be here, whether they're governmental or NGO, that are based within Port Elizabeth and within the Algoa Bay area. Anyone can join.
Dr. Snow, Bernie, that sounds huge. So please feel free to pass on this question, but how on earth does anyone manage or direct that?
With having a good team. I think that's what's important. And each project needs to be managed effectively and efficiently. You need to have project managers and leaders, and you have to have will. So all the researchers, academics, and partners that are involved have the will and the interest to participate and contribute. And I think that's what's very important. And it's relationships, it's communication and building relationships and partnerships, and not just expecting a one-way flow of information. I think, it's a combination of all of those things.
Thank you. Could we move now into an exploration of the why? You have already mentioned being interested in the plight of the planet. I fully identify with that concern. Could you talk a little bit now about why the CMR does what you have briefly told me goes on there?
All right. Well, I think the big answer would be is to be the best ocean science research entity in Africa, and to be able to contribute meaningfully towards ocean science development and research and making a difference. I think the short answer or the strategic answer would be is why is an entity like this in the university? And that is to promote ocean science research, which is a key strategy or component of the research strategy for the university. Also to facilitate these funding opportunities for the university, and also to focus particularly on coasts and oceans, being a campus by the sea, a university along the coast. And it started with the vision of the researchers within the Faculty of Science that then was also advanced by our previous VC, Derek Schwartz, and is still a very big component and strategy, I should say, for the university. So there are various reasons. If you're showing about what the Institute wants, or the reason why I decided to become director, which is a voluntary position and is extra work, and that would be because it's a challenge, it's important, and we do need to find reliable and reasonable ways of saving the planet.
If a student is listening at Nelson Mandela University or anywhere else in South Africa or the world, how could they get involved? What would be their trajectory towards the CMR? It's mainly postgraduates that are working at the CMR. So could you talk a little bit about the students who are not specific students, but just as a general picture of a student? Where have they come from? And what do you think makes them steer towards the CMR?
There are two pathways how students get to know about the Institute. The first is that through the university, when students put in an application or a query about ocean sciences to the main university, question and answer portal, they then redirect it to us, and we will then facilitate either answering them or assisting them or pointing them in the direction of the right academic faculty that they could enter through, and give them advice of the different programs that take place. And this would be both at undergraduate and postgraduate level. The CMR itself mainly focuses on postgraduate. It doesn't mean that the academics that are members of CMR do not teach at an undergraduate level, but membership is from honors level up in terms of students. Most of the students happen to be linked with a CMR academic member or a research associate or research fellow, and they then become student members of the Institute. We then also employ research assistants and provide opportunities for short-term employment for some of our students so that they can gain valuable experience about the working world and can contribute to research projects. Also, we aim to find funding to help support postgraduate students where possible with their studies. We have not had students directly register under the CMR because we're an entity, not a faculty. It's still one of those sort of old silo approaches that needs to be relooked at and redressed, and it slowly has over time. So since 2016, we could not have research associates. Before 2016, we could not have professional associates, research fellows registered under the Institute. However, now we can, and therefore research associates, research fellows, and students who then register under the Institute are able to work across faculties and on a variety of different projects, which is a very important key feature. So if students want to get hold of us and are interested in participating, is keep an eye out. We do send out newsletters, speak to their promoters or their supervisors, become members. They can go to the CMR website and there are membership forms and processes for them to become members. Yeah, I think that answers your question.
It does. And it reminds me that I saw an email sent out just this morning, a call for seagrass researchers.
Correct.
Could you just correct me on that? Because it's not for a whole bunch of researchers. I believe it was one researcher, a postdoc student doing work on seagrasses.
Correct. Postdoc working on seagrasses.
Perfect. That's very specific. It conjures in my mind a picture of a student picking a lot of samples, spending a lot of time in the water on the banks of a river. Well, in this case, seagrasses would be more marine. So on the ocean, on the beach. It sounds pretty glamorous. Is that correct? Does it perhaps involve a lot more desk work, a lot more quantitative research, doing a lot of collation of what they found and putting it into a thesis or articles and so on?
Again, I think it depends on the discipline and their promoters and the people they work with. So in many of the natural sciences, physical, chemical sciences, they have a very positivistic approach. So they will develop their hypotheses, they will undertake the research, do the field work or lab work as required, and then it will be many hours of analysis, statistical analysis, and writing up. And then towards also not only a thesis or a dissertation, but also towards journal articles that they would then write with their supervisors or promoters. I think that for many, the glamour of saying being a marine biologist or working out in the field, it depends very much on the personality. It is glamorous, but we sometimes forget that we even have to go out into the field in good weather, bad weather, windy weather, rainy weather, or stormy weather. And work has to be undertaken. And it can get pretty miserable, but it's towards you achieving your goal as a research student to graduate. And if you're passionate and interested in it, then it will not get you down. Whereas there are others, and I sometimes think of myself as that. I used to do a lot of work in bad weather, and I've now turned into a fair weather researcher. I like going out in the sun shining, and I've got my picnic basket to go with. But there is a lot of desk work, more than many think, involved in ocean science research.
The unfair weather scenario there reminds me of our island just off of Kucha Harbour. That's Bird Island, right?
Yes.
I do believe that many researchers have spent up to 3-4 weeks there at a time. You can correct me on that. And it involves all sorts of challenges. For one example, the smell of guano. Wait, is that bird poo or is that bat poo?
Yes.
Bird poo too. Okay, so they arrived to a guano-infested island, sleep in a stone hut in all weather conditions, and out there it can be quite rough. So not for the faint-hearted, I imagine. Bernie, may I ask you if you have any recommendations for listeners about books, films, projects, websites, or anything that sheds light on what you consider to be important issues?
I would highly recommend that people go to and search for the websites that provide information on 2 projects. And that's the Algoa Bay project. If you just type it in, you'll get to the Algoa Bay website. And the other is the One Ocean Hub project. It gives a lot of interesting information, background reading, and also shares some of the poems and artworks that are also generated. So you can go and look on One Ocean Hub website about that. In terms of a book, Sapiens is an excellent book. Films and docies, I haven't really watched too many recently. I've just recently watched the Michael Moore's Human Planet one, and then also some of the Seven Worlds, Seven Wonders narrated by David Attenborough. But I think that what they highlight is the impact of humans, how history has unfolded and resulted in the place we are at the moment, and that we also really need to tackle these big issues if we want to survive as humanity and also protect the planet.
A bit of an odd question. What do you do to activate your most optimal state, whatever optimal may mean to you? An example from my recipe is yoga. Whatever happens in my day, yoga seems to make things better for me. Does anything stand out for you?
It really does depend on what it is. Sometimes you just feel like procrastinating, and then I do if I need to. But I find that sometimes a good cup of tea, music to suit the mood. I listen to all genres, so depending on what I need at the time, whether it's some heavy metal or classical. And also realizing that sometimes if you aren't able to motivate yourself, it's your brain and your body telling you need some downtime. You need to disconnect a little bit from the world. You need to go offline. And I think doing that is the best medicine, even if it is just for a few minutes or half an hour, then you can go back and be re-energized again. So sometimes just saying, I can't do this, and forcing yourself to do something means you're actually less productive.
Golden advice. So to end, how can people contact you?
I can be contacted through my email address, which is bernadette.snow@mandela.ac.za, or on Twitter using Bernie Snow is my handle.
Okay, excellent, Bernie. Thank you so much for your time. This has been great. I'm looking forward to future episodes. We will chat again. There will be a few people in between this episode and another conversation or interview with you. So once again, thank you very much. This has been very informative, and I look forward to meeting up again sometime.
Thank you, Dave.
Ciao.
Ciao.
That brings us to the end of the episode. If you have any questions or comments, please do feel free to send them to me at cmraudioproject@gmail.com. You should receive a reply at some stage from either me or a relevant guest. All episodes of the CMR Audio Project are available for download at www.archive.org. Head over to archive.org and search for CMR Audio Project, and you should find the right page. If you would like to download an episode, you can do so at that website, and detailed download instructions are available at the CMR website, cmr.mandela.ac.za. Many thanks to the extremely talented Kendall Beeden, who composed and recorded the theme music for this audio project. Kendall's email address is kendallbeeden@gmail.com. Thanks again for listening. Until next time, may the tides of life treat you kindly.